Hey everybody, this is Jordan McConnell with the Crohn's Veteran Podcast. Thank you so much for joining me. I am joined by a very special guest today, Danielle Gaffen. She is a registered dietitian and nutritionist. I'm so happy to have you here, Danielle. How are you doing?
Oh, good. Thank you so much, Jordan. I'm so excited to be a guest today on your podcast. Thank you so much for having me.
Very welcome, very welcome. The pleasure's all mine. When I saw that you had, put yourself on the schedule, I was really excited. And I looked at your website. It's for those people that don't know, she has an amazing website, and I'll tell you about it at the end of the show and stuff. But lots of tons of cool information. But before we get into that, I want to know about you. So who is Danielle Gaffen, and and what um and what is the kind of the tie-in between Crohn's and nutrition for you?
Yes, absolutely. I'd be happy to share a little bit about who I am. So as Jordan mentioned, my name is Danielle, and I'm an IBD registered dietitian nutritionist. And kind of how I got there, my interest in nutrition grew after college when my mom developed 3 perforations in her colon, and long story short, needed 2 feet of her intestines taken out. She wound up with an ileostomy that was ultimately reversed after 6 months. But even on parenteral nutrition, or the IV nutrition, she lost 55 pounds and developed malnutrition. And I was her primary caregiver during that time for 2 years.
Mhm.
And could see how powerful nutrition played a role in her survival, let alone well-being. And then my interest in gut health increased when I met my now husband, who has Crohn's disease. He's a 6-foot tall guy and weighed 127 pounds at his lowest due to symptoms of the disease.
Wow.
He literally became afraid to eat because he associated all foods with pain and diarrhea and discomfort. And then he also struggled with complications like iron and B12 deficiency. But since we've been together, I'm proud to report that my husband has gained a healthy amount of weight to feel better and have enough energy to make it throughout the day, because we were able to learn which foods actually do cause his digestive issues, and then focus more on the foods that make him feel good, but making sure he was getting all the macros and micronutrients his body needed. And slowly but surely, we removed the fear and anxiety from eating, and he just weighed himself the other day, and he's now 185 pounds, which I know sounds like,
Oh,
I know.
no, that's amazing.
Mm-hmm.
That's
So
amazing.
yeah, now I'm honored to work with people like my mom and like my husband who are struggling with confusion around what to eat to manage their symptoms. And, it leads to so many complications like limited diet and weight loss and fatigue. So I help my clients implement a highly personalized nutrition plan that brings clarity around which foods to add that may be beneficial and reduce that fear and anxiety, and ultimately help them get their quality of life back.
Wow. Well, I mean that there's a lot of parallels, with that story. My mom has irritable bowel herself. Fortunately, fortunately, she hasn't had any surgeries. I've had 2 feet of my colon taken out. I had an ileostomy that was not reversed, and so and I would say, well, I don't have a bag, but I know ileum, right? And so I've had, well, actually, it was 18 inches and then 6 inches, so like 2 feet total, and then appendix, and then ileum all taken out. And so speaking to your husband's anxieties around food, I know the struggle very well. It was ongoing, and so what were some of the things, with in your husband's case, that he realized, that he may have really liked he may really like eating, but it doesn't like him.
Great question, and one that I'm asked pretty frequently. The one thing that I'll share just before I share his, food triggers, is that
Hmm.
with IBD, even though there are common food triggers, if you will, no one food has been linked to being a trigger for every single person out there. Different
Right.
guts seem to tolerate different foods differently.
Definitely.
But that being said, for my husband, we learned that he is totally lactose intolerant. Like even the tiniest amount of like lactose or dairy. I mean, we just know it's going to be a bad time. Poor guy. Whereas just to kind of show how different people with IBD can be, I've worked with clients who, gosh, one person, she tolerated dairy products best. Like, it just can be so different. But for him, lactose, red meat for him was a trigger.
Okay.
As well as alcohol. And for him, some food additives, for example, for him, like maltodextrin or carrageenan, he ended up being pretty sensitive to. But yeah, for other foods that you hear about that are common for IBD, say gluten, right? A lot of people tolerate gluten. He does fine with gluten. So for him, there's really not a need to like eliminate that food.
Gotcha. Awesome. Okay. Well, that's definitely good to know, and sending him, continued health, because that's really great. Because that's after I had that surgery, I lost, it was maybe about 20 pounds, and that, and so, and so that, it just vanished in thin air. I've never been able to recapture that. And that was a long time ago now. So the idea of, being able to actually like gain weight, sounds pretty awesome. So what you do for people is, truly amazing.
Oh, well, thank you, Jordan. I'm sorry to hear you haven't been able to recapture that weight. That's so hard.
Yeah, I'm a kind of Crohn's veteran. The idea is, I was in the Air Force in my 20s and stuff. So back then, I was pretty gung ho and lifting weights and all that kind of stuff, and was smoking cigarettes and doing other things, lifting weights. And so, but I was, overall, healthier, just in general. I mean, I was able to do a lot of different things and still be, like tremendously, good shape and stuff like that. But after that, after that surgery, it's crazy. Yeah, it just vanishes. So I can definitely speak to that. I know what it's like, and trying to claw your way back up to that weight. So it's really amazing, that your husband's going to gain something like 50, 60 pounds or whatever like that. That's awesome.
Thank you so much.
And so how did you get into, deciding that they want to be a nutritionist, itself, or a dietitian itself? Where did that, like, how did you decide you wanted to do that?
Great question. Really it was when my mom was so sick. She was hospitalized for 66 days during that time. And because of, how serious the resection and everything was, she was like septic and everything. I
Sorry
really
to hear that.
thanks. She's still with us. She's here today. So grateful for her care team. But that was really the first time when I saw like what a dietitian did. I really hadn't been exposed to what that was. I didn't even know that was a real job. But it was just so cool to see, their approach. And I really felt that if it weren't for that part of the care team, giving her nutrients when she physically couldn't eat it all, I was just so, I don't know, I saw it in a different light and kind of wanted to learn more and what being a dietitian really meant, how it was different than, say, a nutritionist.
Right.
So, yeah, I just became kind of intrigued and looked into going back to school. Oh, go ahead.
I was gonna say, educate me, please. So, for me and anybody listening, difference between dietitian and nutrition.
Great question. the answer is so confusing because all dietitians are nutritionists, but not all nutritionists can be dietitians. For example, I was just sent like a flyer in the mail really randomly this past week, and it said, get your 3-day nutrition certificate, become a nutritionist in 3 days. And that breaks my brain that there's no regulation on the nutritionist word or term, because I was in school for a long time. I have my master's in nutrition, completed the didactic program for dietetics, which is the program you need to become a dietitian, then needed over 1,000 hours of supervised practice to sit for a board exam to become a dietitian. So a lot more legitimate schooling, I'd say.
I would say so. I would, probably, props to accomplishing all that. That's no small task.
Yes. In college, nutrition wasn't a major where I went. Rice University in Texas, kind of a small school. And so, when my mom got sick, I didn't even know anything about the process and realized I need to go back to school to become a dietitian. So took my prereqs to get into a master's program, to then get into the DPD, didactic program for dietetics program. And it took me about 2 years to finish all of that. And then an extra year to do that supervised practice.
And so, to your knowledge, how many nutritionists, people with your credentials focus on IBD? What'd you say?
Great question. To my knowledge, I believe there are a handful out there. I'll be honest, I haven't seen very many myself. That's why I was excited to talk to you. I was like, wow, she did. Wow, okay, cool. I mean, I think there's a few on in the past episodes, but there's not a lot of you guys out there. Yes, I feel like really dietitians specializing is more of a new phenomenon. Really, with thanks to being able to meet with clients virtually in telehealth and telenutrition, because now as a virtual dietitian, I'm able to see clients from all over the US, which really opened up that client pool so that I could specialize.
Awesome. Like, are there any technologies that help you in your work? That's been specifically for IBD, would you say?
Ooh, great question. So technology is not specific to like on the professional end, but more for patients that they could benefit from.
Yeah, exactly. Like, if is there through your work, or are there any platforms or technologies that you recommend for to folks that that kind of help make their lives better, or that maybe to help make their lives better, I would say.
Yeah, great question. Aside from my website where I offer tips for people, and we can totally talk more about some of those tips if it's helpful today. But in terms of actual tech, aside from a website, there are some interesting apps out there that some of my clients have found helpful. Two that come to mind right away are a Symptom Food Journal app and a hydration app.
Okay.
Would it be helpful if I talked more about either of those?
Yeah. I think so, because again, somebody might be out there, just got diagnosed with Crohn's disease, that doesn't know what to do. We're all always we all have in our heads. So anything you can provide, and recommend, from your own personal experience is appreciated.
Absolutely. For the Symptom Food Journal, I find that the apps out there really help track symptoms after the foods somebody eats. And you've probably heard of the Symptom Food Journal before. It's not usually a super new recommendation for someone, but let's be real, it's a pain in the butt to do. No one likes
Right.
it. It's not a sexy recommendation. So I find that the apps make it a little bit less tedious, if you will, just because I know my phone is on me all the time, and it can just be kind of a quick way to track that information. But long story short, a couple of apps out there are designed specifically to help you track symptoms related to food. So one app that some of my clients have liked is called Bowel, spelled like bowel, Bowel, but with an extra LE.
Okay.
Have you heard of that one before?
No, I haven't. No, that's
Okay.
kind of a funny name.
Okay. So that app is available in the Apple App Store. So really for people who have iOS or iPhones, that app was designed originally for irritable bowel syndrome, or IBS, which is not what, our Crohn's veteran group has.
Right.
But the bones of the app are still there, in the sense that, like, you enter your food, you enter the symptom, and then you can kind of put on your food detective hat and search for the links. But there's also a newer one that I'm finding maybe more helpful for people with IBD that could be interesting to try out. That one is called Cara Care, CARACARE. That one's available both iOS and Android, or the Google Play Store. But
and for folks listening, I'll do my best to remember to put these websites in the description of the podcast episode too.
I can send them to you too, in case you want to
Awesome.
put them in the show notes.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, but long story short, those have been pretty helpful for people, even before working with, say, a dietitian, just to kind of get that data to be able to kind of track, just because I don't know about you, but like, I can't remember what I ate or how I felt yesterday.
Right.
So by kind of tracking, can be a little easier to find those patterns.
Okay. And speaking of, diet and nutrition and stuff, I was looking at your website. You have this whole blurb about sugars. And so and just how much, I guess, sugar impacts, IBD and stuff. And so would you please speak on that? And because I have a really bad sweet tooth. Just, I love all things, like this, I just huge sweet tooth. And so, could you speak to, what you found out and what you learned about sugar and IBD, and how somebody like me can still, have fun stuff.
Yes, absolutely. And I can share that, sometimes when thinking about nutrition professionals, you hear about, them only eating salads or whatever every day.
Mm-hmm.
And that is not me at all. I also have a sweet tooth, so feel that pain. So really, there are kind of two interesting things that we know from the research about sugar and how it plays a role with IBD. One of which, the first kind of thing that I'll share, can be helpful to people who are flaring. So that actually is one of my top tips during a flare of what to think about related to sugar. And that is that concentrated sweets, so thinking of foods like soda or regular sports drinks or candy or even fruit juice, all of those, even natural sugar, that concentrated sugar can pull water into the intestine, and that water has to come out somewhere. So, the other end. So that may contribute to watery stools and diarrhea. So during a flare, especially, that recommendation to decrease concentrated sugars or sweets in the diet is really to prevent someone from having more loose stool on top of any diarrhea they may be experiencing during a flare.
Okay. Thanks for that. And wife was wondering, um, yeah. So she was wondering because we're always trying to try to say, like kind of go-to meals, and you have some recipes on your website too. And so just for you guys personally, what are some, favorite things, that, yeah, things y'all can eat together, not just stuff you can make for your husband, but stuff that y'all can make, for the family, that everybody can eat. And so I'm curious on some, recipes or some go-tos that you guys have, figured out.
Ooh, great question. And the thing about nutrition is that recommendations can vary so widely between condition to condition. I have
Right.
hypothyroidism, so I have my own set of, guidelines that will help me. But pretty much at home, I'm taking my stuff that works for me, his foods that work for him, and then making this like Venn diagram.
See what overlaps type of thing.
Exactly. Because I don't know about you guys, but I'm not eager to make 2 separate meals every single
No, this is not, no, it's not Burger King over here. Everybody having it their own way. So, we gotta try to figure out a way that we all could, have a meal that we all can, be happy with.
Yes,
So,
exactly. But to answer your question, we eat a lot of fruits around here. I know it's not the same, right, as something super sweet, but super
right.
anti-inflammatory for the condition. And, the more types of fruits you can get, the more variety of colors, the more it's going to be helpful.
Cool. Well, so I'm also curious I'm also curious. So your website, I think it's great. So how did that come together? And yeah, how did that come together? Like I guess telling folks out there, what it is, what's on it, what services you provide, how people can reach you and and get the benefit of what you do. All that, please.
Yes, of course. So the name of my virtual IBD private practice is Eat Well Crohn's Colitis. So my website, professional website, is eatwellcrohnscolitis.com. So yes, long story short, my goal was to get the word out as to what I was doing and, to really provide people with as much information as I could, because with IBD, it's just information out there regarding diet for IBD is often confusing, and there's a lot of misinformation out there. And my whole goal as a dietitian is to get you, research-based, evidence-based recommendations. So yes, you'll notice a lot of recipes on there, a lot of blogs where I'm looking at the most recent research publications and trying to translate that into plain English for people. But I think that tip that I mentioned about decreasing concentrated sweets, that's one of the quick tips that's in my free food survival guide during an IBD flare that you can find on my site. So yeah, we can totally talk about more tips from it, or, you can check it out yourself. There are a bunch of tips and a sample meal plan on there.
Sweet. Well, and so what is the, excuse me. So what is the best way that people can contact you? Would you say?
Yes. If you visit my website, there's a contact me button, of course, you can press. People are also welcome to email me directly. That is great. My email is my first name, Danielle, DANIELLE, at eatwellcrohnscolitis.com.
Awesome. Well, I won't spoil all those great tips. So people are going to have to go there and check it out themselves. So yeah, so please support Danielle. Please hit her up. I'm probably going to be hitting her up. So because I need help, and so if you found value in this show, please support us. Please subscribe to please subscribe to the podcast. We're on Spotify and Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, all that stuff. You can check out my website. It's crohnsveteran.com. We have a merch store on there. We have brand new stuff for Crohn's and colitis. So please, check it out and support the cause. I appreciate it. And again, if you want to reach out to me personally, my email is Jordan. It's Jordan at crohnsveteran.com. Shoot me a line. I'd be more than happy to talk to you. We can talk about IBD. We don't have to do an interview or anything like that. I'm here. I'm here to help the community. So with that, Danielle, any parting wisdom, for folks going through Crohn's and colitis?
Great question. Something that I see a lot with IBD patients who come my way is that they've received information telling them to avoid entire food groups or specific foods, but that kind of advice can get really dangerous very quick just because, it's tempting to keep cutting out food after food after food. Maybe one of the scariest patients I was working with, he was down to just 4 foods he felt were safe to eat. And that's really not a great place to be. Ideally, we want to include as many foods as possible just to increase the chances that you're getting a balanced, nutritious diet. And that's important for maintaining the function of your digestive tract and overall health. So, yes, maybe that would be my final advice. Just if you can, try and find a way to get as much of a balanced diet as possible.
Awesome. And actually, I know that's supposed to be my final thing, but I actually thought of something that I wanted to ask you. And so, it's ways to stimulate appetite. And so, like, do you have anything to say on that? And that's what I'll have.
Yes, excellent question. One tip that I have in terms of stimulating appetite that can be helpful either during a flare if your appetite is decreased, or say after surgery. Sometimes appetite can be just not there at all, is to try having small, frequent meals. What I mean by that is smaller portions of foods consumed at more frequent intervals throughout the day not only are often better tolerated by the gut, so it's helpful during a flare, but can really try and stimulate appetite. The gut can kind of get used to eating at regular times, and it can maximize your nutritional intake, really providing you with more opportunities to fit in nutrient-dense foods throughout the day. So I just want to be super clear, not recommending to eat less food overall in the day, but by eating regularly and dividing up overall intake into, say, 4 to 6 mini meals can absolutely help improve appetite, help with symptom management during a flare, and to help fit in more nutrition.
Sweet. Awesome answer. I really appreciate that. And what is your husband's name again?
Yes, his name is Ari, spelled A-R-I.
Ari, from one Crohn's veteran to another, sending you well wishes, man. Danielle, again, thank you for being here. And that's the show, guys. Appreciate it. Salute.
Thank you for having me. Bye.
Bye-bye.